Hello, friends, and welcome to the FACEIT League Season 4 Master Division Grand Finals Day. We have got 6 teams, 4 fantastic matches, and a lot of awesome plays ahead of us today. My name is Jeff. I am here with the Confucius of Collegiate, the one and only Kenobi, here to help me tell these awesome stories. Kenobi, I cannot wait to get into this. This is going to be an amazing day.
I can't either. It's going to be so great. We have so much action-packed Overwatch for these teams to come, and I'm happy to be here with you, Bull Skunk. I'm the Confucius of Collegiate. You're the Oracle of FACEIT League Masters, I think is what I'll say for you. So very excited to be here with one of the most knowledgeable people about all of these teams that we're going to have today, and we've got some bangers on the way, I hope. I'm crossing my fingers for everyone.
Oh, same. We're gonna start off. We've got 2 sets of matches for each region. We're gonna be sending 4 teams on over into the OWCS quals and crowning 2 champions here for Season 4 Master Division. Taking a look at your schedule. Oh, I mean, 6 teams. All of these teams are top tier. We're looking at a lot of next up talent across the board. Oh, man. Then we're going to kick things off here with Quick Esports taking on TA, and with this match is no exception. Winner of this one, of course, move on, as they're going to face Frosttails. So they're in that grand finals. And we've got some more stakes. It's not just the $7,500 prize money for first place here in Master Division. We've got some OWCS promotion relegation matches that these teams can qualify for as well.
Yeah, so right off the bat, I mean, with this matchup between Quick Esports and between TA, you already have some high stakes trying to get into that promotion relegation tournament that's going to be coming up for OWCS. And Jeff, what I've really loved about what I've been seeing so far with my research into the FACEIT League Masters is kind of the mix of this like new wave of talent that's coming through, and then also combined with that, there are some still veterans that are hanging around the scene, still trying to make something happen, getting into OWCS. So it's that nice mix of, it feels a little bit like Contenders, a little bit where there is that path to pro. So I'm really excited to kind of see the new up and coming talent, but also some of those players that I'm very familiar with, see if they can get back up into that OWCS and the highest level of professional Overwatch.
It has been a wonderful clash of experience. And here in 2025 in particular, we've introduced, now we have promotion relegation system. Our ecosystem has changed and evolved in such a wonderful place that it is. And it's really opened up some room. It's really opened up room for these young players coming up, for the next generation of Overwatch talent is starting to find its peak and is starting to become household names. And we're starting to pass the baton a little bit to some of these next up players. And that's, we're highlighting a lot of them here today. But you got to have the mix. You got to have those veterans there to guide them along, to keep blood pressures cool and heads calm through these high stake matches. So yeah, a lot of these teams are going to provide a mix of both, and I'm really looking forward to particular highlighting some of these young new stars.
Yeah, I think that you can kind of touch on something that's very interesting about like going through the bracket and stuff like that, and keeping heads, the pressure's on in a lot of these bracket scenarios, right? Especially like we're starting off right now when you have a battle to get into a relegation promotion tournament, right? Like there's a lot of pressure on these, and how many of these players, being so new as they are, how many of them have gone through these high pressure scenarios? You need those other players, those veterans to calm them down. It happens in like pretty much every sport, right? Where it's like, you got to have the vets, so that 13th man on the bench, eventually it's going to be able to make some difference, having that person there. So I think that this is going to be something to look out for when we have these like new up and coming talent. It feels like with what I've seen so far with these teams, when the roster building happens, there is always that kind of like player that's been there for a while, done it for a pretty long time in this scene, in Overwatch in general, since the esports started, now coming up with the rest of those teammates.
It's so difficult. You got to. There's so many nuances. There's so much there's so much fire under you in the match time moment that it's easy for that to get in your head. We've seen it time and time again with young players where the nerves will get the better if you don't have that steel component to level it all out. Let's take a look and kind of focus in on our 2 teams here for this first match. We're going to start things off in a lower bracket final. So, we got Quick taking on TA today. This is a rematch here from earlier in the season. As you look at the top of this bracket, you'll notice Quick taking an early 3-0 and sending TA down into the lower bracket super early here in this tournament.
Yeah, I was talking with you a little bit earlier and like going through the regular season and like what's the tournament look like so far. TA was 14-1. They were 43-6 in terms of their maps, and them going out so early was a huge upset. And not only that, Bull Skunk, but going down in a quick 3-0 fashion, then having to fight a grueling 5-map series against, in that lower bracket, then going 3-1 again in that lower bracket. Like, this TA team has been through a lot. which was a team that I think when I was talking with you about it, they were expected to go to the grand finals from the upper side. Now they're in the lower side, and they've been through a grueling lower side already. So now it feels like they've warmed up, and they want to get that grudge match against Quick, who, I mean, finessed them 3-0. Like, I think you were talking to me about it. It was a very quick 3-0 with a sub as well, which is against a Quick Esports team who we were talking about a little bit before, struggled coming into this tournament, and then creates one of the best matchups that they've had, that 3-0 against TA. They do lose to Frosttail Esports eventually, but now they are one win away from getting that relegation tournament, or promotion relegation tournament, going forward to face off against Frosttail. Again, they want their own salty run back through that lower bracket.
Oh, TA are hungry for it. And by the way, a quick 3-0. I see what you did there.
Rich rubs off on me a little bit.
Hey, I'm flattered. Yeah, you gotta bring the dad jokes. It's good. It's good. But like, I love that if you did the math on that, you're talking about TA goes 43-6 with dropping a series at 14-1. The math on that is they lost 3 maps in the other 14 matches they played in the regular season. I mean, there's a reason we have these teams so highly rated, so favored, and that 3-0 from Quick was such an incredible upset. TA had beat them 3-0 prior in that regular season back in week 5, also a 3-0. Apparently, if they're going to win on between these two teams, it's going to be dominant. I don't expect that here. I expect this one today to go the absolute distance. But if we take a look back at the upper bracket semifinals where Quick were able to get the win, it was more than just, there was such an awesome story there as well, because Quick are missing one of their main starters. They had Snowdrop, who was a hot young up-and-coming hit scan player. I mean, just super impressed. PNR, the coach of Quick, got the starting spot and had an outstanding season. Played in that 3-0 win against SR Peak Check that you're seeing here at the top of your Quick Esports playoff history here. And then suddenly their star hit scan player has a medical emergency just before the TA match, just before the most important match of Quick season. They lose their hit scan player, and they got to pull up Zydra from the bench, who's not even super comfortable on the Sojourn. I mean, Zydra showed up, and the rest is history.
You could have fooled me, honestly, with what I've seen from Zydra so far. It felt like there was also a Cassidy pick that I think really caught TA off guard, that was really impactful in that series between them. But again, I think it's an incredible story for Quick that they lose kind of one of their star hit scan players, to a medical emergency, and then they still 3-0. Like, it was also a convincing 3-0. We have that meme in Overwatch where it's like, hey, the scoreline doesn't necessarily indicate how close the series was, yada yada yada, whatever. This one was a very clean 3-0, this one. So the scoreline does not fool you in this regard. So again, I'm very interested to see kind of what's going to be happening, because you're right, it's been 1-3-0, 1-3-0. Now in that lower bracket final that we have right here, this is where I feel like at least I hope for just the general, content for today. I hope that we have a much closer series between these two teams, because they're very familiar with each other now going through the bracket. This is where I think you have to kind of throw all of your cards on the table. And between them, I think it's going to be interesting kind of stylistically with what they're going to be seeing from two of these teams, because they seem both very set in their ways with how they want to play. And I think one of the things that I'm kind of the most interested in is the dive composition that we're going to be seeing from TA, because TA is very dive favorite. Like, they love the dive more so than anything else. And I think that is in what I would imagine is the current state of Overwatch right now. Map dependent heroes are and compositions are very important, right? Like, maps dictate a lot. So when we go to hero ban and we go to pick ban for maps as well, that's something that, especially when I look at a team that is very compositionally, not one note, I'll say, because they can obviously play other things, but favors a composition so highly, pick ban becomes super important.
Incredibly, much more so than if you're in kind of a mirror meta where you're constantly seeing the same 5 heroes play for both sides. In the state that Overwatch is in right now, the chess match and the amount of advantages you can get in the pick ban phase between hero bans and being able to control compositions that way, and then of course between the map picks and being able to decide how the battleground influences the compositions that are played, it becomes very powerful prior to even getting into the map.
Yeah, and we can take a look at the rosters here between both these teams that we're going to start things off. I think one of the for Quick Esports, as we start things off, you can see the rosters right here. Snowdrop was that player that unfortunately had to dip out because there was that medical emergency. But we were talking about a Bull Skunk. Willis, to me, is someone we have to be looking out for, I think, in terms of this match, in terms of this series, and just overall with the rest of the year in terms of how Overwatch is going to be played with this team. Willis is fantastic to me. I think the Hazard is one of the probably best hazards I've seen based on what I was looking back in some of these matches beforehand. Like, this tank
100%.
player does so much to create space for the rest of the team, to allow like the DPS to have good moments, to allow the supports to have that space to work with as well. Like the tip of the spear really for this Quick Esports team is Willis on this tank pick. It is usually the hazard that I see, but there is some other things that you can play with this Quick Esports team. I think the biggest thing that I would say is a weakness for this Quick Esports team is kind of the compositional diversity, which is something that TA also has. But if they can play this hazard composition and let Willis like have a lot of value in creating that space, engaging and making the dives work for the rest of the team, Quick Esports is a very difficult team to deal with if you can have that.
Yeah, I think Willis is not just a player to keep an eye on here for Quick, is a player to keep an eye on in all of EMEA. I fully anticipate Willis to be a future star of Overwatch and become a household name. I mean, just turned 17, actually played for Quick Esports prior, back in 2023, but was too young to play in Master Division, didn't meet the age requirements, but had the chops. Didn't recently, became of age, rejoins Quick Esports here for 2025, and Willis has been a absolute shining star of this entire region.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's going to be really reliant on the tank matchup, as we can, we talked about Quick Esports, now we can look at TA. And kind of when we talk about the matchup and like the hit scans being important, the tanks being important, I think dive also is something that we have to be looking out for, especially because if you are playing against like a team that is super reliant on like that dive that TA seems to be really, set on playing, holding that space and being able to create the space away from the dive team is kind of going to be the important thing to look out for, right? Because you have that ability to stand your ground and not let the dive really impact you so heavily. And that's what I'm going to be looking out for when I look at Quick Esports' team. Are they going to be able to soak up the pressure of the dive? And with how Willis is played, I think that ability to hold space should be able to give Quick Esports an advantage if they can play at their own tempo.
They've also got some wonderful experience, next up-and-coming talent, as well as veteran players to help keep the heads cool. You've got Natsuki and Yoham in this backline, both more experienced veteran players to kind of help dictate that and help protect through those dives and bring that more mental game. But speaking of cerebral, we take a look at TA. Tama is known for being one of the biggest brains in EMEA tank play right now.
Yeah, I think this TA team, like, I was talking about how they like rely on the dive a lot, and it does. I mean, Tama is like very much playing chess in a lot of these matchups, and that's why I think the tank matchup is going to be so important, because it does feel like, you have the cerebral play of Tama, who's coordinating these dives, and Willis, who's like very aggressive, very dynamic, being able to create and hold that space. I think that this is a team that they like to like swarm you like a nest of bees, right? They just get on you with those dives, very aggressive. They're crispy, they're clean a lot of the time with their dives. If they can get those dives set up, that's really where they have a lot of value. And to me, the biggest weakness of this team, a little bit like Quick Esports, is that they do have this very dive-centric play style, and it's kind of their most preferred composition. So now when we go to maps where dive doesn't necessarily work, are we forcing dive on a map that doesn't work? Are we going over to Malga or something like that, where you don't necessarily have the same amount of compositional value as you do when you're playing your best composition? That's really what's going to be looking out for me, because whenever I see TA play, they're always banning like anti-dive. They're banning Torb, they're banning Junkrat. They'll even ban Sojourn, because Sojourn is pretty adept at like getting away from dive and stuff like that. So this is a team that like very much will try their best to play dive at any point that they can. And if not, it does look a little bit less, less crispy as it does when they are on that dive composition.
I mean, they makes them kind of predictable. Like, there's no hiding what they want to do. There's no hiding what maps that they're going to want to play on, what heroes are powerful for them and powerful for their composition. I mean, it's obvious, and their opponents are going to know it going into it. It's just a matter of, can you stop it? At that point, can you still do anything about it? But I mean, 100% TA and Quick Esports have similar matchups in that regard, both very specialized in what they're good at, but everybody kind of knows what they're good at.
Yeah, I think one of the things also TA, when I was watching them in the lower bracket when they went to that 5-map series, was they struggle a little bit against the silly, where it's like if you're playing if you're playing Hammond, if you're playing Zarya, if you're playing these kind of things that aren't necessarily the most standard right now, they do kind of get a little bit off kilter in terms of like being able to set up that dive. Right? Because when you're playing dive, you kind of want to go through your flow chart, right? You don't want anyone to mess you up, and then suddenly there's just a Hammond that just smacks you in the face and you can't do your dive anymore. So I think that that's something that, especially when we're in the lower bracket and Quick Esports has this knowledge now, that is something to kind of look out for. Does Quick Esports pull an ace out of their sleeve that we haven't seen before from them, that can take this dive off kilter? It's really going to be, I think, a chess match to who can break serve between these two compositions, because I expect them to kind of come out on what their standard is in terms of what they like to play the best, and then whichever team ends up winning, then it's about like, okay, how do we adapt in the mid set? How do we figure out a way to beat this composition, or do we have to just completely switch off of it? As we do have our first map, it is going to be Nepal, so it is control starting things off, and then when we go to these next couple of maps that are after that, it's going to be the loser's going to be able to pick maps. So again, when we have these two teams that are very compositionally, I'll say rigid, it's not necessarily the nicest way of putting it, but it does matter. Like, maps do matter a lot, as we already see the bans taken out here. It's going to be Farah, and it's going to be the Juno taken off the table.
Yeah, TA banning out the Juno, rarely plays it. You almost exclusively see Takuno in the Ana. Takuno's got a super nasty Ana, one of the best in the region. So TA happy to ban out the newest support cast here for Overwatch. The FAR ban coming in from Quick is a little interesting. That one I'm not as confident on the reason behind this one, Kenobi.
I think it's a Nepal ban in particular. I think Farah's kind of always had like a little bit of a play in Nepal in particular. I think Juno is also a little bit of a Nepal ban, where it's like if you go to Village or something like that, it's very adept at like being able to speed around. It's also like, I think, good against the dive to an extent, where it's like you can use speed ring to disengage from a dive pretty effectively, and then when you don't have cooldowns as the dive team, you just go back in and you're just like you're SOL a little bit. So I think that these bans kind of make sense to where I'm starting things off. I think it won't change necessarily too much how the teams are going to play archetypically, where it is going to be probably, you know, the dive. There is possibility for rush because it's Nepal, right? Nepal, you know, you play Village, you can play dive, but a lot of people just play rush and just CP Tim on the point. So, you know, I think that that's definitely a possibility too.
It's such a small point. I mean, you just huddle up, and then, I mean, somebody's got to come attack you. You know, the dive controls the high ground. It's like, you can control the high ground all you want. We've got control of the objective. So,
you know I love high grounds. You know I love high grounds. So
I know you love high ground. You've always got the high ground.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be something, especially with this map in particular. When I look at Nepal, like, and you see the different types of sub-maps that we're going to be having, it is going to be a good litmus test, I think, for kind of what we're going to be seeing from these two teams in terms of if they're going to be forcing compositions, right? Because if we do go to Village and we're not seeing any brawl or anything like that, then it's like, okay, well, these two teams don't really want to diverge from what they're playing currently. So I think that it'll be a good indicator kind of what we're going to be seeing from these two teams. And again, that tank matchup between Tama, one of the most cerebral players like you talked about, and then Willis, who I think is going to be able to really be a nuisance on the team. I think that those two tanks are going to kind of be the focal points, and then that's really going to allow the rest of the teams behind them, you know, the hit scans are going to be very impactful as well, because we don't, especially because Farah's not here, there's no, you know, ability to play that hero. Now it's going to be mostly on like Sojourn. Tracer, I think, on the side lane going to be incredibly valuable as well.
It does when you take the FAR out of the equation, and your DPS can just kind of go back into the tried and true, kind of fall in. I mean, the Tracer Sojourn has continued to be the preferred DPS duo. At least that's kind of the benchmark. You know, we kind of gauge everything off the Tracer Sojourn, and do we adjust from that? Does a player tend to favor the Genji, or do we favor an Ashe off of that? But, you know, with the FAR band out, like you said, it's gonna be back into that tried and true. I don't expect too much difference. Dip does tend to favor the
Genji a little bit.
The Genji more, where Gucci slash Peekaboo, I think it's gonna be Peekaboo in game, tends to favor the Tracer. So, but other than that, we'll see.
Yeah, I think they kind of operate a little bit similarly. I think Genji kind of plays a little bit more of like an old flex tank, kind of being able to create that space on the side lane, hold a little bit, instead of something like Tracer. Tracer's just kind of like a nuisance to like play and like deal with the backline a little bit in those regards. So that would be an interesting dynamic if we do see a Tracer versus Genji matchup. I think the other thing that we have to talk about is that the previous series that we saw between these two teams, it was a Cassidy that really made the difference.
Yes.
Coming, I believe it was from Zydra,
yes,
yeah. Zydra was able to play the Cassidy and play it very effectively, right? So is that something that TA is going to be aware of, that's going to be a potential to deal with them, especially with how well Zydra piloted it in the past? But I think it probably is going to be more of the standard Sojourn and stuff until someone like aggressively forces them off of it into something else.
I mean, we'll see. The Cassidy definitely caught TA off guard in that matchup. Zydra went on to have most damage 2 of the 3 maps in that 3-0, one of which was like a 20k just over the top performance, you know, in that 3-0 upper bracket qualifier, quarterfinal. I mean, in that 3-0 from Quick. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just come right out of the gate with it. I mean, the way Zydra performed in that series, it wouldn't have surprised me to see a Cassidy ban right here out of the gate. That's the kind of impact Zydra had in that series.
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially if TA wants to play the dive, Cassidy's like, very good ban against the dive. So I think that that's definitely something that we have to keep an eye out for as we go into our next series after this. But we are going to finally get going on to Paul. You can stop looking at our faces, and we're going to look at some great Overwatch right here between these two teams. Dip already asking for Widow Mirror. Don't think we're going to be seeing that one, Bull Skunk. Just throwing that out there.
I mean,
chat is not hidden.
No, yeah, chat is not hidden. William says yes. That's TA's coach.
They don't know green square, green square, green square.
I also like how it's the flex DPS player is the one who's offering for the Widow duel there.
Looks like we are going to be starting out. So Tama is going to be on the Winston, so this kind of tells me at the start we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that dive center. I mean, it is, you know, we're coming out of spawn. We're not ready just yet. If there's anything I know still after casting Overwatch, don't talk about the team comps until they come out just yet, but I think with these two teams, you can definitely take. And it's going to be Willis on the Divas, so kind of going to be counteracting that ability to hold that high ground against the Winston a little bit better than something like a Hazard.
And it's a little bit more of a comfort pick, particularly with how proficient Tama is and how polished Tama is on the Winston. Not surprised to see Willis not opt into that mirror. Can kind of play around the Winston a little bit more. Right now, just the size sitting here does come out on the Cassidy.
Yeah, but it's a nice pick already from Peekaboo taking down Dip. That means that the Tracer can play a little bit more aggressive without the threat of dealing with another Tracer on the other side, and that's going to be a lot of space that's going to be taken here by TA, and that should be able to get them that point if they can coalesce back onto the team.
Quick Esports doing a good job of soloing it out there. Yeah, Gucci able to steal out that first control. Natsuki tried to come contest, but Zydra with a pick on Takuno. This might just swing it the other way. The sustain now just gone. And TA just dips off of its point. No pun intended on that. We are going to get a last second contest as Peekaboo and Alba show back up here. Little duel on the point. Suzu has to be used. Zydra's able to find one of those stallers, and then Gucci's out, and we're going to get the flip.
Yeah, and we're seeing the Cassidy already getting a lot of value. I mean, there's Zydra taking out Takuno very early. That means there's basically no healing left with just the Lucio, and that, you know, TA tried to come back into that fight and just get as much percentage as they could. Only got it to 19%. Now you're taking up for Quick Esports, who have control. You have the Kitsune Rush available, so this dive is going to be very difficult for TA to pull off. They have to be very careful, because if you dive into this team with Kitsune Rush, you're not really going to get anything, as Zydra again finds another pick at the start, and it feels like we're seeing exactly what happened live in form of what happened in that upper bracket, where it was that 3-0, and Zydra on this Cassidy is taking names.
Yeah, second verse, same as the first so far. I mean, you know, small sample size, we're early into this first sub-map, but this is the story of Zydra on the high ground. Can they dislodge? Tama kind of tries to get some space there in that center area. He's going to get a nano boost engaged in here. Little peel back from Wills to help protect the high ground, and Tama just has nowhere to go. Can't risk moving forward. Finally decides to go try to attack in. Now there's that Kitsune Rush over the top. Not thrown onto the point, but actually up on the high ground. I think there's a little bit down low for some dual actions. Zydra once again in the fade. Is going to find Lauren early. Dip keeping the stables clear and Quick keeping control of this point.
Yeah, and I know we knew a lot about the ability of, you know, High Noon to be able to be a zoning ultimate, but there it really worked out well as the High Noon, or as the Soundbarrier comes through, and actually Tama commits Primal Rage to this, doesn't find a lot of value, and Quick Esports just feel like they're so in control right now of everything they want to do. TA don't really have a foot to stand on right now. If you look at how they've been trying to make these dives happen, they haven't had a clean one like we've seen previously with this team.
Now.
Not be able to find any way to get to the high ground. Tama's going to try it over the right-hand side, and it's going to be an overclock out of War and see if they can open it up. Still nothing on the board. Lord comes up with Buckkiss off of that OC. Needed it to get something, and Dip is going to move in. Finds the flank and the kill. The Pulse almost prevented Wells to get back in mech. Not quite. Dive in from Tama. Soundbarrier fading from TA, and it's the last ultimate they have here in a 99-19 fight. Tama's going to find Johan through this, but Zydra just cleans up. We're down to 3 players left. Kuchi with an opportunity, gets a defect. But can't overcome Zydra and Dip. Still Tama's here, low stick. Gonna put Tama back in spawn. Is there anybody left? I feel like everybody's just watching a respawn timer right now.
Yeah, there was no supports throughout all that fight, but that pick actually from the Tracer getting onto Tama with that pulse bomb actually is going to make a lot of difference. That means that there's going to be no way for Quick Esports to be able to hold this, and TA can be able to get back into this one. There is going to be a Kitsune Rush available from Yoham to come back into this, and TA have nothing to deal with it. The Nano needs to come out from Takuno soon.
Oh, could she try to stall out pretty quick if there once again. Tama is back at this point. Oh! Rush won't even let him touch. Don't even get a chance at a fight.
that's going to be unfortunate. Really good, I mean, positioning from Willis as well. I think that this was really, really well played from Quick Esports altogether. The one thing that like really shown to me was that one dive engage that we saw with the nano boost, and then there was the high noon used by Zydra just to zone off. Like that nano boost got no value whatsoever. And I talked about a little bit how we meme about high noon being a zoning ultimate. There it like did exactly what it needed to do. That completely no value off of a nano Winston, which is what you need for a composition like this, right? You want to continue to cycle those ultimates. You want to get dive engagements with the nano boost, and if you're getting high nooned, there's just nothing going to be able to do in that regard. So really, I mean, again, Quick Esports playing this so incredibly well, and it's going to be up to TA to figure out a way to get these dives to work because they haven't been so far.
And it's been TA's bread and butter, particularly in the ultimate fights, is when TA usually looks very good. It tends to be a fight win for them more often than not. Not that time. They're sticking with the Winston coming in here to Sanctum. We're going to get a bit of a change out of Quick. They're going to go more ground and pound. Dip goes into the anti-dive.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this decision-making. Look at all these heroes. They're basically going to make sure that Winston doesn't get to have fun. Tama does not get to have fun throughout most of this so far. They have to be so crisp and clean with these dives, and effective as already. Never mind if you can get an anti-nade onto Dip, and that means no Torbjorn. Tama gets a nice engage as well, and that's really how you're going to be able to beat this Quick Esports anti-dive.
We bragged about this TA backline prior to going into this map, and they were a little too quiet there in the first sub-map, and another great anti from Takuno has, well, just given this first cap right over to TA, a flawless first fight.
That is going to be one of the differences about not having the Diva that is important, is that you don't have the ability to eat the nades, and that's why Willis is going to go back over to something like the Diva. So now the Ana gets a little less value, but now it might be a little bit too little too late because you're going to be able to cycle. I mean, look at Takuno, already has a nano boost, and it's going to be difficult for Quick Esports to get out of this little enclosed area with how good that TA are positioning.
TA do give up the front choke. That is a wicked fast nano boost, by the way. Look at the ult charges on the other side. My goodness. All ready to go here for Takuno. Let's see if this engagement's a little better than the one we saw back on Village. Rotation from Quick Esports as they're going to push through the mini room up top, and Dip has gotten set up over there. Rotation from Alba and Takuno to try to come shut this down. Cannot give up all that free space, and I just lost my feet. Well,
we're back.
We know what's going on here.
We were here all along. In my mind's eye, we'll radiocast the rest of it as Dip actually manages to find a couple. And I mean, I imagine what happened there was we saw the rotation a little bit before before we lost the feed. They did a really good rotation. I think that was very smart from them. They from Quick Esports rather, they were able to slowly walk out, rotate effectively, and use that side room in the enclosed area so that the dive couldn't get a lot of value. In those enclosed areas, you're going to get a lot more with the Cassidy, with the Torbjorn, and then you can out-rotate the enemy team. And now this is where it becomes difficult for the TA team to get out of this little chokehold because you have so much spam potential with the Torbjorn. And where does the dive really end up going?
Thomas going to pop the Primal Rage. By the way, TA did use that important nano boost throughout that last losing engagement as well. Willis is going to give a Pulse Bomb, but Alba's going to take down Dip. Thomas finds some value with the Primal. He's really gotten Quick contained in that mini room. Not allowed him to get out, but Sydra's still here and still collecting nades.
Sound barrier to get a little bit aggressive and just overwhelm TA.
Quick Esports approaching bridge side. Looks like in full force. Nano boost from TA coming out early. There is the that I just as anticipated. Force Tama on the outside and now try to engage in the lack of cooldown. But the rotation from Tama doesn't make it. What an intercept from Willis. Willis makes the read and beats Tama to the Mega to find the pick.
And that's 1% away from the Primal Rage as well. So close from Tama, but will have it to come back and recontest here if they want to try to do so, and they have to. It's last fight territory.
Very hit up to 99. Sydra's gonna pick off two before they even get close. The Primal Rage was popped, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough to keep TA in this fight. They're fighting from such a deficit, and Quick will 100% clean up. No casualties here in this final fight. And this yellow bar is going bye-bye. Quick Esports start with a 1-0 here in your lower bracket finals.
And I mean, we talked about it a little bit. This is like which team is going to be able to break serve first, and this is Quick Esports. I mean, figuring out the dive pretty much like throughout all of that. Like TA had a foothold a couple of times, but for the most part, Quick Esports just maneuvered so well around it with the way that they were playing the anti-dive, just so effective with the Torbjorn, with the Cassidy as well. Zydra looks phenomenal. I think it's actually potentially worth a ban at this point. Like, especially if it's going to be TA continuing to play dive for the most part. I think you really have to be thinking about taking this Cassidy away from this player who is phenomenal on that map, but just the entirety of Quick Esports, the way that they were rotating around the dive, the way that they were making these engagements. I mean, Willis just finding that pick onto Tama at the very end, 1% away from a Primal Rage. If that Primal Rage is there, maybe that fight looks completely different. Just really, really good stuff from Quick Esports.
That been the raid, knowing as soon as the pressure went into Tama to force them on the outside, immediately Willis makes the move to go get the intercept, immediately knows that the one escape route that Tama had, Willis is there to cut it off. Not only dies 1% to Primal, but like one step away, the body falling onto the Mega. That's always the worst when you ragdoll onto the Mega.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I couldn't have done this a second earlier. But again, I mean, I think the way that they just Quick Esports maneuvered around this dive was really, really fantastic. Specifically, I mean, Zyd all the entirety of the day, but I mean, just the way that they were using like High Noon as a way to negate negate the dives coming in from nano boosted Winstons. That means Tama isn't able to get value, like, and we saw it make a difference, right? If Tama isn't high nooned in that fight, you know, you potentially get that last percent that gets you into Primal Rage, that gets you to be able to cycle a fight win like that. Just really, really heads up play altogether from Quick Esports, deserving of that first win. And now it's going to be up to TA to figure out, okay, how do we deal with this in pick ban? Because it's like, you know, do we gotta ban Cassidy? Do we gotta start banning Torbjorn? Like, where do we really feel that we can get a foothold in this match?
I mean, I think you gotta ban the Cass at this point. This is 4 maps in a row. I mean, if we're going back to upper bracket quarterfinals, maybe not semifinals, the upper bracket match. I mean, this is basically 4 maps in a row of the Cassidy giving you an enormous amount of problems. And I mean, I mentioned I was kind of surprised we didn't see it come out, you know, in Nepal. I'm surprised they didn't open up with the Cass ban. At this point, I think it's a must. I think it's a must.
I think it's a must as well. I do have to give a lot of a lot of credit to the supports as well, because of the way that they were able to peel, especially against like a dive heavy composition like that. Like, I think that, you know, supports don't necessarily get the love sometimes, especially if it's like Kiriko Lucio. It's like, you know, you're not showing up into the kill feed too much. You really only get known for Ajaxing or something like that, right? But I think the supports did a fantastic job of just making Tama's life miserable. Like, I talked about how with the composition that we saw from Quick Esports, Tama doesn't get to have fun unless there's a nade and they can get like a good engagement and really, really get value there. But if Willis is on the Diva eating every single nade, taking that space away from you, not playing something a little bit faster than what we saw with the Ramatra, and also that's another thing where they saw their Ramatra wasn't working and just instantly were like, okay, we're getting off this, it's not worth it. And that's, I mean, good heads up play from them, adapting immediately and not letting that percentage tick up and trying to buy back in with a composition you just know isn't going to work.
Another thing to consider here is exactly what I see on the board is the Diva ban. That was the other thing I was just about to throw out is maybe you don't actually attack the Cass, but it was that swap. You attack Willis, who's, you know, we're touting as one of the strongest players in this entire division, this entire region. You know, take that big chess piece off the table.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you saw the thing about Willis now is Willis is going to have to play probably something like Hazard, I think, is like something Willis is very good at. And if we're going to be seeing, you know, the Ana coming out mostly from Takuno, if it is going to be the Ana, that means like Hazard doesn't fight well against Ana, right? And neither does it. You don't have a lot of ability to negate something like an anti-nade, and that's really where when we saw success coming in from Quick Esports, anti-nades were hitting from Takuno. And now, without the Diva, you kind of have a little bit of a better air, and that's why we're going to see the Ana ban. I think this is a fantastic ban from Quick Esports. They know that if the Ana was kind of the thing that was really, really impactful, take it off the board. That means Hazard gets to be played a little bit easier here because you don't have to be worried about anti-nade just blowing you up. So good heads-up play from Quick Esports, and this is the chess match we were talking about, where it's like, okay, both of these teams have taken away now the best thing that we have currently, and now we're going to be from the other team, and now we're going to be seeing some switches.
Very smart. Love it. And Takuno has such a mean Ana. Like, that's not only is that an important cornerstone piece of the composition and the way TA likes to work, but I mean, you're talking about just mechanically, you're taking out one of the, you know, their strongest players off of their best hero.
Yeah, and now it's like, now it's super interesting to me what TA is going to do, because TA has to, if they are going to be continuing to play dive, and like we have to decide what the map is as well, because that's something else we have to take into consideration, you know, with compositions. But like, you know, what do we do with the dive now? Like, do we have to play, you know, Juno? Are we playing Juno Lucio? Or because Ana is like kind of key to what we saw from TA being so successful, and like where do we get some changes now in that regard? Do we, you know, Kiriko I think is also something you can play alongside the Lucio as well. That might be an option for them, but realistically, I mean, these were two very smart bans, and we're going to be going to Numbani next, which, I mean, if TA is the team that's picking, obviously they want to go to a very favorable Winston map, and this is definitely one of them. And now, because the Diva's not there either, do you have to, you know, play a Winston mirror here? Are you going to play Hazard still? You don't have necessarily the same amount of vertical mobility on that hero as you do in something like instantly like a Winston. So the chess moves are great from both these teams. Like they're playing at a very high clip in terms of just the IQ right now. And but I'm interested to see like how this is going to work in terms of team compositions, because we saw on that first map, pretty much I don't think we'll see like entirely the same composition.
Not at all. And I do know TA have been known to run the Lucio carry with the Winston. Just because the Ana is banned out doesn't mean that they're going to change their entire game plan. We'll most likely just run the Lucio carry with the same front line that we saw back.
If they're picking Numbani, they're playing Winston. Like there's no way you pick this map.
You're just going to run Lucio carry with the Winston. Like that's just. I mean, and they're hoping that Quick Esports will match, right? I think that's what they're hoping. They're hoping that Willis will opt into the Winston mirror against Tama right here. Another big thing to note is they had the entire breadth of game types to choose from here. They can choose from whatever. They didn't have to choose hybrid. They can choose from whatever they wanted, and that's Numbani was the pick of the entire breadth of maps available here for TA.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good Winston map, and I think that, you know, kind of going into this one, is there going to be, I think Pharah is also something, because we did see it banned earlier, and this is, Numbani is a map where you can see the Pharah as well. I'm not necessarily so certain about that one. I think on the defensive end, you can kind of still pilot it if my knowledge of Overwatch is still up to date. I think it's still like viable in that regard. But I think that, again, this is probably going to be something where we don't see too much changes in terms of what we see from TA. I'm really interested to see what Quick Esports do, because I feel like, to me, it's like screaming like Hazard for Willis, because you can't play the Diva, and this is a map where vertical mobility does matter a ton. Like, I don't think we'll see like Malga or anything like that. Like, to me, I think that the best, maybe there'd be like a ball would be like the only other thing that I could think about, and that is something that TA does struggle against when they did play in that lower bracket. The ball was something that really caught them off guard, the Zarya as well. So if Willis is as like depth and you know, the hero ocean is there are maybe some things that you can bring to the table that is like an ace up your sleeve, because you kind of got to do it now. You're in the lower final. There's nothing after this if you lose.
I don't feel like I've ever seen much Willis ball, right? It's not, as opposed to like Waspo, no. You know, Ostrix is a notorious ball player. Like, as a ball one trick, has videos of all the ball tech. Like, that was the opponent that gave, you know, TA a lot of trouble in that lower bracket, but it's such a unique style team. I don't expect to see that. I don't think I've ever seen a wrecking ball out of Willis. The Hazard is probably the best guess here, but it's all just speculation. But I mean, it is that. I would anticipate the Hazard comps.
It is what I always say is, like, to play ball, you got to be a ball player. You know, you got to know how to play ball. There's no like in between. You're either a great ball or you don't play ball. Like, there's no in between unless you're Fate from Overwatch League and you learn it in like 2 months and you're just the best ball in the world, right? But we can't all be Fate. So if Willis like just has it as an ace up their sleeve, it's possible. But like, again, it is very much a hero that requires a lot of nuance and a lot of understanding to pilot. So I think that definitely for me, Hazard is what comes to mind in terms of this map in particular. I think if you're TA, you're running Tama on Winston, you don't pick this map if you're not going to be playing Winston. And I think the Diva ban was also a very good choice because it was something Willis was so good at. It's also very good on this map to counteract Winston. So, and I mean, on top of that, I think we could also just see a straight up Winston mirror. I wouldn't put it past Willis to play that either.
No, and Willis has definitely got a good monkey on him. And again, I think that's what TA are hoping. I think TA are hoping that they're going to see Quick on that Winston here with the defense. TA, of course, starting us off in the red outlines to go on the attack. So they get to kind of wait and see and adjust on their attack.
Oh, please bring out. Oh,
I know.
I was hoping. Come on.
Unfortunately, right, it's just not in a good spot, my friend. I know.
That would have been that would have been so sick if they brought that out. But I think this is like good understanding from Quick Esports in terms of the DPS that they're bringing out the Cassidy and bringing out the Torbjorn. Again, very good at anti-dive. It feels like if they know that TA is going to be playing the Winston, these are probably the two, like one of the two best anti-Winston's heroes that you can bring to the table. Especially you're going to have Dip on that Torbjorn, being able to make it difficult for TA and the Tracer to move in those side angles. You can cover them very effectively, and for TA, it's going to have to be them being very, very careful with these dives when they make them, because if they move out of position once or twice, they can just get instantly blown up by the amount of anti-dive pressure that we see from TA.
That is Gucci on the Tracer, by the way, for TA, using a streamer mode like a bad gamer. So, just keep that in mind. Yeah, this is Gucci on your screen right now. Push in. I love the positioning, though. That is a dangerous spot, and with Gucci that far entrenched under the backline, it's going to open up some space. Thomas is able to make it up to the high ground, and Willis has a tough decision to make. Ooh, Takuno with an opening pick up that backline. We are going to see that Kiri. Willis hunts him down. What's Takuno doing up there?
Yeah, I think Takuno TP'd actually over back to where the Tracer was and never managed to find their way out, but it looks like the Swarm is coming in, and Tama getting taken down incredibly low, needs the heals, but there isn't the Kiriko there, so ends up getting absolutely blown up, and that's going to be a fight loss for TA and Quick Esports with this anti-dive working so effectively right now, and that's tragic if you're Lauren right there. That is not something you want to see a POV of on broadcast. That's not going in the montage.
Well, we'll show that one a few more times just because it's extremely embarrassing.
Yeah, it'll be in the replays. I for sure Prod's gonna put that in the replays. I can guarantee it.
Well, good news for TA. They're coming up perhaps on some ultimates here for this next fight. I'm really looking at that orbital ray more than anything to try to get him some space on this objective. Interesting, very split approach. It's got like one player going in from each side. It's gonna be the Deadeye to try to zone out this force Quick Esports towards the coastal side. Where Tama's moving up to the high ground to try to move on the Zydra, but Alba's just by themselves up there. No cover, no peel, easy pickings there for Willis and Zydra.
Yeah, this just feels like a surgeon that completely is dissecting their corpse right now, right? Because every time that TA's trying to make this like engagement, they're just being surgically dismantled by Quick Esports. It's so hard for TA to really get that foothold, and look at Quick Esports, 5 ultimates in their back pocket to deal with whatever TA is going to throw at them here. Whenever if you try and dive on, you got a Molten Core just to throw down, Downpour as well. Like, how do you even beat this?
I certainly don't know what to say. Thomas is gonna be the cerebral here. We need something genius. We need a 200 IQ attack out of Tama and TA. Give me the Deadeye from Zydra. Launch on coastal side. The Molten Core thrown in down on the back of point, and Dip gets 2. Takuno tries to swift step in to help Gucci out, and they both end up watching a respawn timer.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do this thing where they're sending the Tracer and they're sending the Kiriko behind the team to be able to deal with, like, you know, and force some movement from Quick Esports. But Quick Esports is doing a great job of just having Dip play by himself and being able to just win a 1v2 like that as the Consumer Rush comes in from both teams.
Partially blocked by the wall. That ball does look like it got blocked by the bubble as well. Orbital from Alba's on the high ground, and let's get a very split. Now it's Willis trying to see if they can dissect, but Thomas beat him to the punch, doubling down. Dole in the back line, Susan to save it. Takuno gets the kill onto Zydra. That might just what TA needed to push this over the line. Primal Rage out from Tama at the moment. The supports move up to the high ground and try to support what remains on this objective. Willis coming in to try to recontest, but there's just too much damage. Not going to get it. And TA will finally...
They're going to try to get back on.
We're going to get back into this thing. Warren's going to Deadeye to try to keep Willis off. Willis is low. Dancing around the bubble. Tama should be able to bring him down. The heals are too good.
The bubble was fantastic there. I mean, cut off completely all of the healing, and now Thomas being able to hold this positioning very effectively. Laurente's on Natsuki, that's a lot of healing lost. High Noon from Zydra trying to buy back into this fight. Doesn't manage to find anything, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, Gucci's able to find a pair. Expensive fight for both teams. I mean, and it took TA all of their time as well. They had to spend everything, including their entire time bank.
Yeah, and I think now they're going to be going, Tama's going to be actually going over to, it's weird that they're going to be matching up directly onto this matchup with the, I mean, with the Hazard, it makes sense, a little bit more sense here because there's not that much high ground to play around on this particular part of the map, and it's a little bit easier to pilot around specifically the Cassidy and also the Torbjorn. You're not as vulnerable as you are on something like the Winston. So I like this change actually coming in from TA, going off of what their comfort is.
I think they were trying to force Quick to take their mirror, and TA ends up taking Quick's mirror instead. See if Tama can pull the candle to Willis's Hazard. Good fight position for Takuno to provide some side damage. Multiple coming out from this defense. Just sort of right down Main Street. God, that may just painted the streets. That is all over the place. Fighting up TA. TA are able to regroup through score to now converge onto this Kitsune rush, and all guns pointed up Main Street. But unfortunately, Zydra is able to cut down Alba, and it's just Kiriko heals left for this attacking team as an orbital comes in from the defense. The counterpunch from Quick, trying to push forward. Good peel from TA. Oh, but Tama gets caught by the wall. What a jagged wall out of Willis to deny the heals, to deny the retreat, and another fight win from Quick.
Good tempo as well from Quick, knowing that Alba is not in that team fight because Zydra took him down so early. That means that Yoham gets a free orbital ray to go in that re-engage and are able to tempo out a win. And now it's only 1 minute left for TA, and with where the card is about Skunk, I mean, this is probably, they get 1, maybe 2 more fights left at this, but the Natsuki needs to find a way to get to this rally, but it's Lauren that actually ends up going down to a high noon from Zydra.
Showdown, okay, Corral going in Zydra's favor. Been our cast champion past 3 times these teams have met. So just a small regroup, and this is going to take this down to a potential last fight here, Kenobi.
This also, that's Natsuki with that high noon. Natsuki's able to get this rally, so they're going to be able to deal with this orbital leg coming in from Alba.
But on the corner, Tama has moved into the Mega. It's going to be the downpour. You can try to counteract. What a downpour! Alba just gets shut down immediately. The rally almost seems superfluous at this point. Icing on the cake of another flawless fight win for Quick.
Yeah, Willis played that so fantastically well. A downpour completely cuts out Alba. I mean, really just well played. Sneaks up on him, and now it's just TA with just, I mean, they have the Kitsune Rush available to them. That's going to be great, but you have a Molten Core that's going to be able to do a lot in terms of just negating TA's advancement here.
The down from Lauren here to start things off. The Molten Core thrown right in front of the point. Thomas going to slow this down. Looking to try to turn the corner and get this Kitsune Rush all the way down the street towards the back of the cap would be ideal. Wait for the lava to fake. Keep an eye for Zydra trying to work on that left flank. Regroups as the attack comes in from Tama onto the back line. Downpour's gonna find, oh, just one. Natsuki was able to block it, but still can't escape the blade from Gucci. Now Gucci goes in, trying to chase the Torb, won't find it. Another orbital up here from Yoham on the defense, and Dede's gonna take down Lauren. Zydra's got both DPS in this fight. TA have run out of teeth. I don't know how they're gonna get this done.
Yeah, I mean, this is really fantastic macro from Quick Esports, the way that they played that. They used the Molten Core very early in that team fight when TA were trying to aggress with the high noon. You talked about how they wanted to, you know, throw that Kitsune Rush directly right down the, you know, right down Main Street. But because they used the Molten Core so early, that let Yoham get towards the orbital ray, which was the biggest thing that changed that team fight. They were about, I think when that fight started, 20% away from it, but because the Molten Core was used, because they bought that time, and because they were able to take enough damage but play on that knife's edge where it just got that last 20% for Yoham, that made the difference. And that's just very good, calm, cool, and composed macro play coming in from Quick Esports.
God, so many of these fights are on a knife's edge. Where it's that 1 millisecond difference. If Yoham doesn't get that orbital up, you know,
they lose that fight.
A very different fight. If Dip doesn't have that Molten Core, we're looking at a very different fight. Man, this feels like just millimeters between the difference between these two teams.
And that's, I mean, that's something that I learned, like I saw from Quick Esports is Little, when they play these like mid fights, they're like very calm and collected. When they like kind of have an understanding of like when we're going to be able to push our boundaries. They like, again, playing on such a knife's edge where you're taking so much damage, and like I think there was like a 2-man downpour from Tama that actually managed to get something, managed to get 2 people, but the kills weren't there, and that did enough damage to let Yoham get to that orbital ray. I mean, just really, really good heads-up clutch play, as TA is actually going to be bringing in the Pharah on the defensive. This is something I talked about a little bit, where you can play the Pharah on the defensive end with how good Zydra has been playing. I worry about Pharah players. With how, like, because I think it's very difficult to pilot around someone who's playing at such a high level when it comes to that hit scan.
And don't forget, Cass's range got increased by 5 meters here recently, and that 5 meters is enormous. Oh, Lord, filling the business end of that extra range, and that Zydra's first blood here for Quick's attack. Dive up to the high ground, and oh yeah, the ground far is not where you want to be. Gucci trying to back away, but there's no more teammates left. This is a one and done on point A for Quick.
Yeah, this is very quick. And I mean, they're going to have such a huge time bank going into second. I don't even think there's a way for TA to get back into this one. They're actually just, I think, going to forego it. Play Orisa on the defensive end here. I mean, it's going to be good to deal with a lot of the poke that's going to be coming through. But I mean, to be honest, like, it feels like TA are just floundering a little bit in terms of what they want to play, because they've been forced off of a lot of what made them so strong with that dive composition. Now it seems like Quick Esports have such a ridiculously high tempo to start moving forward and be aggressive with 5.5 minutes in their time bank just to get it about 3/4 of the way to second.
thinking this guy is just trying to corral, put some entry damage, and make Quick Esports think twice about approaching this corner, and it does force him back to the previous corner, buying some space. But look at Dip. Dip has moved all the way into this backline, right in front of the box of victory. A lot of pressure now. It's like 4 players from TA chasing Dip, and they still won't die. It was a gorgeous Suzu who missed all of that. TA going. They eventually hunt down Dip, but so much space has been created that, well, I was going to say Willis has moved up close, but so much damage being thrown in that all that space has just immediately been taken away by Gucci, and a beautiful kill on the Zydra.
Yeah, but they're going to have to string together a lot of these fights because there's still 5 minutes left in their time back. And if you lose one fight here, I mean, there's no respawn advantage for you whatsoever. You have to win every single fight crisp and clean in the neutral beforehand. They do have some key ultimates coming up for themselves, but again, they have to do a lot of work.
Early order from you. I am on this fight, going right over the objective. Gets an air rush thrown in, but Tama goes down. Caught in the downpour. Beautiful headshot. Pair of headshots. Both supports are gone. Quick Esports have 3 sites back into a match point. It is clean sailing from here into a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, Quick Esports are playing so fantastic right now, and it feels like TA have been found out with that dime composition. No way to get that touch with the peel, and that's going to be Quick Esports, like you mentioned, taking a 2-0 lead on match point, 1 win away from that promotion relegation tournament. I mean, this is what we talked about a little bit with TA, Bill Skunk, was, you know, when you're forced off the dive, like, what do? There's a lot of really good anti-dive heroes, and you can only ban one thing. You can only ban one. Like, do you ban Cassidy? Do you ban Torb? Like, there's so many options that it seems like you've brought to the table for Quick Esports to beat the dive composition. Like, it's going to be very hard for TA because that was a map also that's very Winston favored. Like that's a map for their comp, and they weren't able to win, and it was a very convincing 2-0 from Quick Esports.
Smart bans. I mean, smart bans. I think taking the Ana out of the equation, I think was really hurt TA on that attack. I mean, the Ana is so powerful, and part of that Winston favorite method is Noombani. So really smart ban there. And then, you know, Quick to try to play their game. It ends up with Quick just in all of their comfort picks, and TA kind of feeling like they're having to play some suboptimal picks in their own right.
Yeah, it feels like TA are always playing catch-up at this point, where it's like, okay, like, Quick Esports have found them out pretty much in terms of like what they're going to be playing compositionally. You're seeing some Pharah come out just to try and make something different, but it feels like, again, Quick Esports just have such a good idea of how to beat this dive composition with the anti-dive that they're playing, and TA don't have a foothold to deal with. So I think that I knew it was going to be in the replay package. I think that now it's like, okay, we have to, if we have any aces up our sleeve, if we're TA, if we have any like compositions that we haven't brought out, is there something new that we have to see? Because we've seen a lot from TA, I mean, in terms of like being able to move over to like the hazard and things like that, but it just, none of it seems to have worked. And Quick Esports are in a very good position, because even if they were to hypothetically lose the next map, they get to pick the other two to go, if we go to a map 5. So they're in such a great position, not only in just the series, but if there were, you know, something that happened bad in this next one, they would be able to just be, you know, have serve, being able to pick whatever map, and then you can just take them to any anti-Winston map you want, and you're like, okay, we're feeling good.
And not only that, you've gotten out 2 important bans already. Like, you know, maybe we see a Cass or a Hazard ban, but
I think
TA are running out of weapons in that regard too.
Yeah, I think you got to ban Cass at this point with how well Zyger's playing it. Like, I thought, like, not that the bans this round in particular were bad either. Like, I think that it was really smart to, you know, get rid of the Deeb at that point, take it away from Willis and try to play. But I think that, like, the Cassidy from Zydra has been so good that, and it's so good against the dive that, like, take it off the table at this point. Like, I think that's probably what I would be if I was a coach, which I am not. I'm plat, but that's where I would be going.
Hey, just a reminder, friends, Zydra isn't even the starter for this squad. They're starting to hit scan, not able to play here in this bracket. Zydra called in off the bench just before the upper bracket quarterfinals. Hadn't started in like 2 months. And it comes here and puts up this kind of performance here in the postseason. Unreal. It is so awesome to see. Yeah. Unreal. Incredible performance
I mean,
there from the hit scan. Yeah.
It feels like we're seeing, like, cause we didn't exactly see what happened in that first upper bracket, but it feels like we're just getting a replay completely. It's going to be Dorado as another good Winston map. That's something that is very good. High ground, incredibly important here. This is where now, again, like, when we go to pick ban, like, what do you ban? Because there's so many anti-dive. Like, Torbjorn's really good here still, and it's going to be a Lifeweaver ban from that feels like a throwaway.
That is a throwaway.
More so than anything. That hero doesn't exist.
Well, at least not in these teams. No,
I don't think it exists. I don't know if it exists anywhere.
The team that we're about to see coming up in our next series, they have unironically pulled out the Life Weaver, but we'll get into that silliness here in a little bit. This is just got to be a protect onto the Ana, right? That's the only thing that makes. I mean, but they've already banned the Ana. They can't ban the Ana. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it's a throwaway ban, which is weird because I feel like you have the option to like ban Tor, ban Cass. Like there are good bans that you. I mean, you could. I think you could. No, you can't ban Winston. Yeah, I mean, it's a throwaway. I'm trying to rationalize it in my mind, and all signs, like I'm looking at an 8-ball, and it says all signs point to this being a throwaway ban, unless there's like some hidden tech that they knew about in like Scrimbucks that we don't.
No, I'm just as baffled as you are on this one. I got nothing. I mean, I hope it's not just TA losing mental fortitude, you know?
Yeah. Our job is to like rationalize things, you know. It's like
there's
got to be a plan, you know, all the time. This one I'm like, okay. And then it's Winston ban makes a lot of sense though. I mean, by Quick Esports, like just take it off the table completely. Now you're like forcing them into you're forcing them to Hazard, you're forcing them into Diva potentially as well. It's like the best thing that TA could play. Like good ban from Quick Esports. Not sure about the ban from TA. Like not my favorite. Cassidy wasn't like an option there.
Cassidy
was an option there. I don't know.
Well.
They're smarter than me. You know, they're the top 3 in the EMEA Masters. I'm just in Diamond. I don't know nothing.
I mean, they were the #1 team. They dropped 6 maps in 15 series. Like TA that's the #1 seed coming out from this entire Master Division Season 4. So yeah, they definitely know better than me too, but I don't think this one at all.
And it's weird that like for it to end like this, where like they're getting 6-0'd by a team that they 3-0'd in the regular season. Like make it make sense to me, Bullskunk. You're the Oracle. Like it just feels like this is a complete upset and a complete fall from grace from TA.
I've got it. It's the psychic warfare. All right, okay. They're favoring the psychic warfare. They're going to get in Quick Esports' head because Quick Esports is going to be so baffled by the Life Weaver ban that they're not going to play right anymore.
Are they like lulling them into a false sense of security right now? You think that's what it is, or it's
precisely.
It's like the Stanley Cup playoffs where Edmonton was down 0-3 and they're like, that's exactly where we want them, and then they come back and they almost win it.
Like, got them right where we want them.
This is exactly where TA wanted them the whole time. It was just a ruse.
Well, I guess that means the reverse sweep starts here.
Oh, my favorite caster line. This is where the reverse sweep needs to happen. But I mean, again, how well Quick Esports are playing, it's gonna be a lot for TA to come back from this one. It's not over. I mean, they might have something up their sleeve with the way that they can play this composition. They get the Ana back, which is great for them and great for Takuno as well. But without the Winston, I mean, it still plays a little bit similarly with the Diva, where you're just trying to farm up towards that Nano and find value with the nades. But with how good Willis had played beforehand on this against something like an Ana, find it very difficult for this Ana to find an incredible amount of value if Willis is always checking it.
And this is TA's season on the line. This is TA's shot at OWCS promotion relegation on the line. This is an extremely important map. Maybe the single most important map of TA's season right here, right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's do or die right here. There's no other map after this if you lose, and good start already for Quick Esports as they're holding this high ground very effectively. You can see Tage trying to farm. Their health bars are a little bit low, but that's going to be good for Takuno being able to farm towards that nano boost and then get very aggressive once that nano boost comes online, dive and take away that high ground. But it is going to take a little bit of time here.
Wolves does eat a purple and just a bit of staging going on at the moment. Good job from Wolves to not allow free cart progress. And keep this offense pinned on this first quarter. Make them work for each and every piece of positioning. Zydra catches Lauren, peeking for just a little too long. Takuno threw a nade up top, and I think TA were hoping they could follow up on it, but they keep their eyes out of the cover, and Zydra just puts a bullet into both of them.
Yeah, and Takuno wasn't able to get towards the nano in time, so that means that there's going to be, again, more time taken off the clock right here, and it's already a minute and a half, Bullskunk. Like, this has been a lot of time that they've taken off, and they haven't been able to find anything, and Tom is just going to switch back over to the Hazard. I mean, maybe you can make an engagement here with the nano boost and get that Hazard onto high ground, but again, the way that we're seeing Quick Esports play so effectively right now, utilizing these corners effectively, not playing super over-aggressive and waiting for the engage to come to them, that's what you want to do with a casting top.
They're as safe as could be up on this high ground. Oh, and Dip is even going to find Elbow with the pulse. No shot. This is just going from bad to worse for TA. Gucci won't land it. That gets themselves killed. Oh no. Tama's okay. Tama's finds the first kill here for TA on this attack with a nano boost engaged. Get a little bit something going, and at least you have forced Quick back into the Fountain Courtyard.
It will be a lot of space given, which is going to be great for this team because now they kind of broken this defense and now they're playing on a little bit more of an open field, which is going to be much better for the Hazard to start maneuvering through.
Red side mania room. Helford now. Ooh, good. Speeding ring. Almost forced that backline back. Yeah, it was a boot from Willis that kind of broke the rotation there from TA as they tried to huddle up in that safety room. Rally up here from the defense. Ooh, Natsuki's low trying to back away. What an orbital. Yoe puts the orbital right on top, and they're able to cancel Alba's rally. Battle to the Briggs goes to Natsuki. And the vet leading Quick Esports here to another fight win.
And Lauren's going to be taken down here. Oh, actually manages to survive, doesn't get caught out at the very end of that one. As we're going to be seeing, there is an overclock available. This should be able to get a good amount of value. Hopefully shooting down Main Street right here alongside a downpour coming in from Tama.
Yet another ball pop. This will not land on the Alba. Zay's just going to drop a dead ice, but this Lauren's overclocked.
Good NT.
I think needs to open this up, needs to find some paper and do it now. Has the overcharge for that extra damage, but just doesn't have any good targets in front of him. Can't line it up in the OC fades. Good catch in the corner there from Tama, but somehow Natsuki survives, gets out of that dangerous spot. Bio lands onto Willis, forces them out with about 50 health. An opportunity here for TA, gonna throw in a downpour. Catches Alba in it. Oh, can't quite get it. Johan caught in it. Zydra does trade out for Takuno. That pick from Willis might just be the end for TA. They needed that nano boost. They needed that sustain. Tama is just lacking and now is down.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have one last chance at this with 10 seconds left, but it's do or die right here for TA. Nano boost and pulse bomb. Tama's going to switch over to the Doomfist just to try and get the touch. Helix should be able to get there in time to proc overtime.
The nano's going to be thrown onto Gucci as well. The pulse at the feet of Natsuki, but no dice. Couple of ults here for the defense. The Dip has already taken down their counterpart. 5v4 here for Quick Esports. And the stick lands. The block negates some of the damage, but not enough to keep Tama alive. 3 strong. TA are running out of options. It's just Lauren and Alba left. Their run on Dorado stops here.
I mean, I want supports that play as well as the supports for Quick Esports because I saw Zydra being swarmed by like 5 people and the peel and the healing was immaculate throughout all of it. Like Zydra was taken down to like 50 health, surrounded by 3 members of TA and never went down. The supports are playing so fantastically for Quick Esports right now. And that's, again, it's something that the Cassidy does super well where it's like, you have that little bit of ability to sustain yourself with that role and with the damage reduction you get. And if your supports are playing as well as Yoham and Natsuki are, like, you're pretty much unkillable a lot of the time. So really, really heads up play from Quick Esports, who look like, I mean, it looks like they are ready and willing to get that, you know, salty run back against Frosttail Esports in that grand final.
Ready for battle.
They're about 1.5 points away. It's super winnable. Like, it's... This is going to be a tough hole. The TA are looking to pull out an unusual pick. Try to perhaps catch Quick a little flat-footed here as they show us... I don't know. Is this fun? Is this desperation? Or is this really cooking here, Kenobi?
I mean, you do have, like, pick potential with the Hanzo. I haven't seen, like, too much Hanzo, but Hanzo does offer a little bit of pick potential, right? It's something different. It's not necessarily the Widowmaker, which is what I would be a little bit worried about, is the fact that the Widowmaker just out of spawn can instantly pop you, but I think the Hanzo's fine. Like, you are able to scout a little bit, you're able to hold some high ground with yourself, and the way that they're going to hold this defense is you do get, like, a pick in the neutral, and you're able to find a headshot, and somehow, some way, just continue to cycle those, and that's really how you make a defense like this. But it's what they need. As actually Quick Esports going to completely switch their composition, and now this is where Helix gets it's going to be a little bit more scary because Helix is going to be dealing with a lot right here.
I like the opening little ambush position. Get some early damage onto Wills, trying to hold this. Oh, that is 3 blue outlines from Quick. Up to take the high ground, and Gucci goes right back up there. Like, no, this is my roof. Gets a bubble even. A lot of investments here, just trying to keep Gucci positioned forward. See, even with all the pressure, still right back on top of Orange House, trying to hold this down, and it allows Lauren some room to get first pick. So,
yeah,
so far so good here for the defense.
if they're going to be putting up so much pressure to take down this Hanzo, it's going to allow the Ferret to get a lot of value, just continuously spamming, continuously putting that pressure down. So I like how TA are maneuvering right now, but the card has been moved so far throughout all of this. It's almost at the very end, and Willis does end up going down, so that's more time taken off the clock, and gotta continue to, if we're TA, to string together fights like this if they want to be able to have a chance to win.
Very dangerous with that card being pushed up as far as it has, because then you worry, is TA gonna have to give up this high ground, or if they do lose the fight on this high ground, is this map just done?
Yeah, we're in that one fight territory.
Yeah, we're definitely in last fight territory. We're definitely getting close. TA need to be perfect. They have no ults to work with here, still in the neutral. Dip is gonna find the kill on the Pharah! Oh no! That is not who you expect to take the Pharah down. I was in trouble taking pressure from both sides. Team Torpedoes to keep them alive, but Willis was coming from the other direction. Woo! Beautiful headshot out of Gucci. Finds Dip. Still has Willis to deal with. Willis is actually going to back away. Deadeye here to try to buy some space right in front of the box of victory. The bubble's going to fade in a nice boop out of Natsuki. Might buy a little bit of room for TA to get back into this defense. They do have some dragons as well as Barrage to work with.
Oh, Zydra goes down, though. I mean, this is a great pick. The way that Quick Esports are kind of making this fall apart a little. The stick is there. Helix goes down.
Oh, no, and Void goes down as well. They lose both DPS at the wrong time. Double support going into this. Toma needs to kill everything with this grab. Abel's able to find a kill on the Natsuki, and the orbital fading from Quick. Yoham at 1 health. Staying alive with a literal hair in that health bar when Dip is going to fight Takuno on the other side. Willis finds the support. The grab is in. There's just not enough damage to follow up on it. Dragons come in and try to combo, but it's a day late and $1 short. Seems to be the name of the story here for TA as the card is pushed in. Quick will complete their 3-0. Will move on to the grand finals in a spot in OWCS promotion relegation.
Quick Esports with a convincing 3-0 get themselves that relegation spot that they wanted. It feels like it was destined for them to match up against Frostdale Esports at the very end in that grand final. Well played to Quick Esports for just completely reading TA like a book and figuring out that dive composition that was so good. I mean, it can't be overstated how good that dive composition was throughout a lot of this bracket so far, how well that they were playing. Very well deserved for Quick Esports. Cerebral players playing very well. Unfortunately for TA, just like you mentioned, 1 inch, a couple of bit shorts a lot of times. It felt like there were a lot of team fights where it was like 1% of ultimate, 2% off of ultimate, 1 inch. Things like that just made the difference, and unfortunately TA are going to be bowing out at third.
Yeah, I mean, hey, third place is it's not too shabby, but TA are disappointed with that one. It's the #1 seed, and had such a spectacular regular season performance. They were certainly hoping that they could find their way into those relegation matches, but Quick Esports handed them 6 map losses in a row to get their rematch against Frostales. Woo. Congratulations to Quick. I mean, that's we were touting Willis as the best tank player in the division. I think certainly showed it there. And then, of course, the super bench player of Zydra. My goodness.
Yeah, super sub Zydra coming in. I mean, looking fantastic on that Cassidy, and didn't even cop a ban. But I think if you're Frostdale Esports and you're watching from the sidelines, waiting in grand finals, maybe we got to start thinking about that Cassidy being put to bed for at least a map. But we do have that Frostdale Esports versus Quick matchup in our grand finals. You can see the bracket and how we got here. Another rematch from the upper bracket final, which was a very good series between the two teams, and I can't wait to see what happens with these two in a best of 7 now for the title.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of maps to work. We got a lot of chances to adjust. And Frostales, they're gonna give you some things to adjust to. This is a fun team. I can't wait to get to tell you about it. Before we get to talking about our grand final, we're gonna take a look at some highlights here. We still gotta relish in this amazing 3-0 we saw from Quick.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like there weren't really that many highlights for this map in particular. I mean, this is just an unfortunate one from Helix, gets stunned into the own pulse bomb, but this was a great series from Quick, and I mean, they're warmed up, they're ready to face off against Frostdale Esports in that grand final.
Woo! Zydra pick. Zydra going over to a Sombra here. It happened so fast. It almost didn't even register. Didn't even register.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Sombra in all regards was just a stall pick at the very end, trying to get back onto the card best you can, and I think that overall, what I've been seeing from Quick Esports, the way that they're able to play, the way that Willis has been able to maneuver around a lot of different picks, like I'm very, very impressed with how this team has been moving. The supports as well. I talked about them a little bit at the very end, but for most of the series, they've been absolutely perfect.
And it was that support line that is the experience. That is, of course, the cornerstone, the backbeat of any composition, particularly here with Quick, able to always enhance, always enable Willis, always makes Willis just looks like a champion at all times here throughout this series.
And before we do go on to the rest of the series, Bull Skunk, we need to take a little break, decompress, get some snacks, get some Capri Sun orange slices. I don't know in EMEA what they get, because I think that's a very NA thing more so than I don't know. There's like some British version of like Capri Sun or something, but we're gonna go ahead and get those. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.